You are watching Access LaPorte County Channel 97. Coming up next is the December 18th meeting of the Michigan City Sanitary Board. You can find more information for this meeting at www.accesslaportecounty.org.
Just made it. Good afternoon, and I'll call the meeting of the Michigan City Sanitary District Board of Commissioners today, December 20th at 4 p.m. We'll do roll call. Don Babcock.
Yeah, man.
Andy Sperling.
Here.
Almost forgot your name. Jim Warner.
Present.
Terrence Falls.
Here.
And Linda Simmons. We're all here. First order of business is we're going to approve the minutes from the November meeting. Everyone's had a chance to read. Can we get a motion to approve?
So moved.
I will second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passed. Public comments? No public comments? And let's move on to our financial report.
Yes, thank you. The cash balances as of today are, the Sanitary District's cash balance, operating balance, would be $2,013,904.15. And then, of course, the tax levy for the refuge portion would be $3,316,437.59. We have copies of that too.
And that was an adjustment from what we got today.
Well, we'll be taking out the
Okay.
monies at the end, of which we'll decide at the very end of this meeting.
Okay, perfect, thank you. Okay, the inter-energy agreement.
So the interagency agreement is a formula we must sign with the city as we are in joint work with them to get the money back for the ARPA. Part of this is a few different actions, which would be one, the approximately almost $300,000, 200, I think it's 82,000 for the garbage truck that we just paid to purchase. That was just approved by the council last night. So that's one of it. The other part would be the money that was approved with the prior board for the MCASE project. And then, again, so that we are in conjunction with the ARPA money, it's free money for us. So we must sign the inter-agreement with the city. So I make a recommendation to sign that.
Is there a motion?
I'll move to have the Sanitary District approve the interagency agreement between the mayor and the Michigan City Sanitary District regarding ARPA funds.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed.
The next would be the memorandum of understanding between the city of Michigan City and us, the sanitary district, that we fund, of course, the IT department. The IT department is a combination of the sanitation department. So we fund all their salaries that go through that. So that money's there, and we also, I'm sorry, if you look at number A on that memorandum, that will show you that it goes to the 3 certified IT technicians, certified GIS technician, and the providing the service of the GSA coordinator, and a half-time, full-time equivalent basis for project manager, and GIS data acquisition. So we pay those, plus we pay the services for the public works director. Part of our monies that we're going to give towards that fund will be $40,000. So those two things will be in this agreement. And again, I recommend that we approve this so that it can be paid to the city.
I'll make a motion to support.
I will second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed.
Next will be the Harris Law Firm, invoices. What you'll see there on the December 4th invoice would be $2,047.50. another invoice of $900 of billable money for fees through the course of November. And then the $5,000 amount for the retainer from December. 12/1/24. So my recommendation is we pay these. So,
Move to accept the recommendation.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second to pay the invoices for Harris and Company. I said that right?
Is there one for 1,147.52, Chris, or no?
Invoice number 0626.
204750, $900, and $1,147.50, and then $5,000 retainer.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so that first page, just so you all know how the system spits these out, the first page is like a summary of the two to follow. So the first page shows the 900 and 1147 for a total, and then there's individual invoices for the 900. You just break everything down.
So it just doesn't include the retainer on the first page.
Correct, on the first page. Yep, all the hourlies, activities on the first, and then the retainer is the flat that you see every month. So
You know what, on to that point, would it be worth us moving to accept the retainer fees for the entire year in one motion rather than going
You
through this
could.
every month?
you could, yes.
Can we do that in January then, or we'll be getting
So
into
that's my suggestion, rather than, because
the new year? That's a great idea.
there's good accounting here, but I mean, it's just a lot simpler for me to look at a single invoice and if it has two bills on, fine.
I wouldn't argue with that.
Well, that doesn't mean we pay it all.
Right, yeah, that's a different story, that's true, yeah.
Who wouldn't mind being paid that way?
Right.
So is the board approved for doing this starting January? You have the $5,000 retainer all in for the year.
Why don't we finish it first and then
Oh, we wanna, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
January.
All right, so you,
There's a motion
I'll
second for
submit
this.
something for
right,
Okay.
so.
so we have motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed.
And did you want to, we're just going to wait till January for the other thing, or you want me to make a motion now?
We'll put it on the agenda for January.
Do you want to prepare something? Or
I'll prepare something.
Yeah,
Let's make something.
okay.
All right,
Sorry,
all right.
Prepare something.
I feel it's more
Just make
complicated.
sure it's not for the annual, but quarterly or something.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be paid that way. He's just saying he doesn't want to approve it every meeting.
Well, I just think it was a retainer, we want to keep it for some
Yeah,
period of
it
time,
wouldn't be
that's all,
paid
rather
any
than just
differently.
go.
Is your contract a year by year just like?
Yes,
Okay, so like that, we'll do it at the same time then.
It's
Okay, perfect, okay, gotcha.
Okay.
Terrific. Okay, and with the, I'm just going to go off base here for just a second on item number 7. Now that we're at that level, this is the Christopher Burke Engineering. In the process, Christopher Burke, as we've all known, has been helping us out throughout the course of the transition to fix the department, and of course hiring a new superintendent. So with that, we've hired a new superintendent, so I'd like to introduce her at this time. So I can just a quick break. Please stand up for just a second. And of course, this is going to be Rhonda Anderson, and she's just started yesterday officially, and she's our new plant superintendent. So we welcome her aboard. She holds all the licensing that we require and need. She's the accolades are just go on and on about her history with the running the Gary Sanitary Department, running numerous departments, but the biggest thing that I always like is that she was an Olympian. I won't say the exact year, I'll let her tell you that, but she was an Olympian, and so we're very proud of her, very glad to have her.
Only a couple of games ago.
So with that, with the Christopher Burke portion of this, they're going to continue on with their contract of no additional charges. So they were only going to be paid throughout December 31st and then be done with their contract, which we all agreed upon. They're going to extend their contract through January of 31st, just to allow us to have this, again, relationship with our new superintendent, Adam Downey, Jenny Miller, and Al Wallace, who will all work with her to get her completely on board 10%, and then they will drop off come the end of January, beginning of February. So that's basic report of Christopher Burke, and they're doing a fantastic job, but they're getting us to this level, and that's exactly where we want to be.
Go over.
So, might we have,
Say a few words.
yes, thank you. Rhonda.
Oh,
You have the floor.
We're gonna do a lot of reports next month, but she's only got one day in, so I don't want to put too
Oh,
much
yeah.
pressure.
Wow.
yeah, so, I've only been here one day. I had 20 years with American Water on the drinking water side, 23 years, and 11 years at Gary Sanitary District. So I have almost 40 years with wastewater management. And I'm really excited and grateful to Mayor Angie for giving me this opportunity. I had retired for 8 months, and I really enjoyed it, sitting out on my deck and feeding chipmunks and squirrels and hummingbirds and all that. It was very relaxing. But when I learned of this opportunity, I realized that I miss working. I really, I'm passionate about this industry, and I'm glad to be back, and thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming.
Looking forward to working with you as well. So welcome.
Thank you.
And she has hit the ground running. She's been here continual for the last couple of days, and she's really
Really did great.
leaps and bounds already, so it's really going to put an addition to our staff.
Awesome. Thank you, Donald.
Okay, the state GLO is next, and I'm going to yield to Al Wallace, who's going to help me through this one, because he has been following this project.
Good evening. Commissioners, Mr. Yelsky asked me to kind of help introduce some of these items under these agenda items. Under 8A, Lake Avenue Highway 12 lift station project. First order of business before you is amendment number 3 to professional services. As we wrapped up the detailed design engineering for this lift station on Highway 12, through survey work, we identified a couple storm drains outside of the road right-of-way Highway 12, which are tied into the sanitary sewer. So we want to take care of that situation. There is a sanitary storm sewer a couple hundred feet away. So as part of the construction engineering that Great Lakes will be providing, we've asked them to design disconnecting those storm drains from the sanitary to get that out of there, and we'll connect that to the storm system. So one of the not to exceed items, storm sewer design in an amount of $15,000, that's one item. And with the location of the lift station off Highway 12, we have to do some permitting with NDOT for a driveway permit. And then also, based on the final scope of the project, there'll be a little bit additional resident inspection services. So that's what the second bullet item is for, the NDOT driveway permitting and additional resident inspection. So those are the two. We're asking board consideration and approval of storm sewer design not to exceed $15,000 and the NDOT driveway permitting additional resident inspection, $27,000, and these funds were built into the final engineering costs provided to the planning department for the issuance of the bonds from the state grant. So they'll all be covered, these funds, and the other engineering that Great Lakes been doing on this project by the grant funding that the city got.
John, the storm sewer that we're going to tie this into, is that a state storm sewer for US 12, or is that our own storm sewer?
That's our own. This is actually off the right of way that connects into the sewer.
That's what I thought when we had talked about that it was, but I wasn't sure where we were going to go with it. Thank you.
So if you'd like to.
So, Mr. Yagowski, are you in support of this?
Okay, so we don't need a motion on that. Next, we're going to follow the annexation.
Yeah, they are requesting.
Oh, we are
requesting approval.
Did I do offer my recommendation?
Is this the roof?
Yes.
I move we accept the amendment number 3 professional services agreement, April 4th, 2024.
I'll second it.
We've got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion pass.
The next order of business under that same agenda item, item 2, invoice 8636. I'll let John speak to that.
Okay, that's an invoice for work done since the last meeting. Thank you, Ron. There are, still some permitting things, some railroad permitting issues we're working on, and some item permitting. This also includes a total route survey on the property, which really then we know, and it's exactly within the right-of-way. Everything's in alignment, and it gives the contractor some control to work from as well. So that's been the primary focus in this last month and what you see on the invoice.
John, the packet I had an invoice for K&S Engineers for $17,440.
Yes.
Was there another invoice that wasn't in the packet for like $1,800?
No,
the 19,184.
The services agreement is a cost plus.
Okay, so you're
Yeah.
putting, okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't quite sure. So,
Yeah,
thank you.
that's the difference.
Okay.
Yeah, and like Mr. Warner said, it does include the K&S invoice, which happily came in considerably under what was budgeted, from 25,000 to 17 and some change.
Nice.
Yeah. So, like,
Thank you.
sure.
Okay, I move to approve invoice from Fake GLE for $44,874.
A second.
Thank you.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passed.
Then the next item on the agenda under the same Highway 12 lift station is, if you recall, Commissioners, we received bids at the last meeting from several contractors for this work. As part of that submittal, all contractors are required to submit local hiring agreements and documentation on equal employment opportunity. So we provided those packages to Michigan City Planning Department. Those documents were reviewed, and we have an approval letter from Christine Vanderbork, Code Enforcement Manager, EEO Officer, stating that she's reviewed the local hiring equal employment opportunity program packet from H&G Underground Utilities, who the apparent and responsible low bidder found their submittal in compliance with Michigan City ordinances and are complete. So we wanted to state for the record, City Code Enforcement Manager, EO Officer reviewed the packages and they are in order. And then the next order of business is, I'll be turning over to John to describe the work that Great Lakes Engineering did to do the bid tabulation and make an award recommendation letter this evening.
Correct. You remember we received 5 bids last month. We had H&G Underground, Woodruff & Sons, Rimmer Construction, Gatlin Plumbing, and HRP Construction. We evaluated all bids, retabulated all of their unit prices and aggregate prices. The bid was for a base bid, and then there were 2 alternates. One was to fully improve a trail north of Highway 12, and then another was to bore some conduit for the IT department to use for some communication between the lift station and the plant. After reviewing everything, H&G Underground Utilities was the lowest responsible bidder. Even adding in the aggregate of the 2 alternates, they still were the lowest responsive bidder. They have issued a letter of recommendation for H&G Underground Utilities based on that. I believe you have this in your packets. And so at the board's discretion, they can award the base bid or one or both of the alternates along with it.
I do. And I give full recommendation to accept.
Base and the alternates?
Correct.
Move to accept the bid from H&G for the original and the alternate 1 and 2.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passed.
And then the next item, Mr. Gussie wanted me to address is item B on the top of the page of back of the agenda, Birch Tree Farms neighborhood. That's an area of the city where there are some existing stormwater infrastructures in the neighborhood, some dry wells, some are road inlets connected to each other to a water body. So we're trying to get a better understanding of how some of that stormwater infrastructure was initially designed and installed. So we approached Great Lakes Engineering to submit this proposal today, the proposal for engineering and drainage study for Birch Tree Farms neighborhood, Michigan City. There'll be some survey work involved. We've already had our collection staff, Michigan City employees out there videotaping to provide some additional information for Great Lakes to kind of keep the cost down of this project. So for the survey work and for some engineering assessment, the proposal is a not to exceed of $9,300 to help us assess and come up with a plan forward to evaluate potential stormwater drainage improvements in that neighborhood.
Just to give you an idea, this is the area north of US 12, the Amtrak tracks, just on the west side of Moore Road. The church there, that property is being redeveloped immediately south of the Amtrak tracks.
Yep.
And that's the neighborhood all the way to the Long Beach Country Club ponds and things that are there, which is the ultimate drainage area that this goes to. I've gone out there when Moore started and we just couldn't find any good clear drainage way to drain any overflows from this church subdivision. So we wanted to get this done so we can try to find out what's existing and what we can do to help out the area, because there's some flooding in that neighborhood immediately north of the ponds.
So Birch Tree.
Right, so this supports the future development of that area, right? Right. Okay.
We'll look at the three phases.
I move to approve the proposal for engineering and drainage study for Birch Tree Farms by GLE.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed.
Okay, I'm going to go to an update of the M-Case project, which would be the annexation. We have, as we know, we opened the bids on October 23rd. The approval by Mr. Harris going through the documentation of the bids was approved on November 13th. Then they were also recommended by Haas and Associates, who went through all the bids themselves on the 13th of November. And then on the 16th of November, which was Monday, I went to the Board of Works, who must give approval. And they gave approval and signed the letter that we also have the funds for that taken care of. That was all taken care of with M-Case. Which we want then to do is, part of the project, there's two levels here. One being we're going to have GLE provide the construction administration for the project. And their bid came in at $113,575. So we would like to have, I would like to have an approval for that amount of money for GLE not to exceed.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed.
The secondary part of which would be another task, and this would be by Haas and Associates, who also I feel is the correct bid. Their task is to do the RIF, which is the owner representative talk with us. They also are to do all the review of the shop drawings, submittals, and contractors, and coordinate revisions and approval thereof. So their two fees for that would be $14,400 and then an additional $4,800. So I'd like approval for both of those items not to exceed.
So do we have an actual, I see the bid from GLE.
I know, I just.
Okay, that's just verbalized, okay.
So yes, I have all that documentation in front
Just
of
want
me.
to make sure I'm looking at the right steps.
So yes.
I move to
So
accept.
those are the two separate, they both work in conjunction together on this project. Like I say, GLE came at the lower bid for a portion of it, and then Haas will take care of this part, which they've already done a lot of the work.
I will second that.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving right along, I think MS Consultants would be next with an update.
Yeah. Good evening.
Good evening.
We can give you an update of where we're at on the preliminary engineering report for the wastewater treatment plant improvements.
Per the scope, we have completed our physical evaluation of all existing infrastructure and equipment. That's done. We spent a couple days here. We brought our process engineer, our electrical engineer, our structural engineer. Spent a couple days up here. We are currently working on the BioWind model, which we received all the data from Adam at Burke. He did a good job getting us everything we needed, so we have all that. So we're plugging that into the model right now. We have evaluated the true implant capacity and the limitations. That's nearly complete. We're at you have no issues with capacity at this point. We don't see anything coming up in the future. Just a couple things to give you guys what we're looking at. We were looking at some sludge management improvements. Right now you've got a group of tankage way over on the east side of the plant. We're going to put new sludge pumps in, pump those over across the creek, put a digester and thickener and sludge management over there, and probably something like a press, belt filter press or a volute press or something like that. We would recommend that we do some piloting of that once we get to that point, but that'll be down the road. The other thing we looked at, potentially new filters and the clarifiers. Right now you have 8 of them. The equipment doesn't appear that it's been changed out in 40 years. We would recommend that you change those out maybe 2 at a time over the next 8 years maybe. But we'll look at that a little bit closer. Grit removal is another thing that we're going to be looking at. Right now you're dumping that into a dumpster and it goes to a landfill. We're going to look to automate that, and this is just the screens that come in on grit removal at the headworks. The other things we're looking at, and I've talked to Chris a little bit about this, or Al a little bit about this, is lab and operations, and since we're moving all that tankage away, the sludge tankage where operations are, we need some phosphorus storage. We may use the current operations building as phosphorus storage. Right now you don't have any. That is a potential item issue. So those are all things we're looking at. The other thing, currently you're using chlorine gas for disinfection. We're going to be looking at UV disinfection, which is much safer. You don't have to haul out ton cylinders of chlorine gas. You basically run it through lights like this and it disinfects the sewage. That's about it. We do have some miscellaneous equipment upgrades that we're looking at as well. And I mentioned this to Rhonda. And Rhonda, I was sitting here thinking, we've met before at Indian American. I did a bunch of work at the water plant. So I'm sitting here, it's driving me crazy.
Where did you know?
You mentioned American Water, I'm like, that's where I know her. So anyway, I worked with Ed Nichols and those guys. Anyway, I'm sorry. What I'm planning to do is at the afternoon of January 22nd, have a technical meeting with Chris, Rhonda, Al, probably Jenny and Adam, with our process engineer, our electrical engineer, and myself, and go through all the technical items. And it's basically going to be a list of things that we're going to recommend for improvement and a cost. And so what I'd like to do is also back that into maybe some rates and things like that. So we'll come up with a litany of things. We need to make some decisions on what we're going to apply for SRF and the bond bank, and decide where we go from there. So that's my update.
Thank you. Can I add something to that update?
Yes, please.
So I know with the ARPA resolution,
the money for maybe Tilly, for that portion of it was a part of the ARPA resolution, so that the financial piece that we can start tying them into that as well, as we start looking at that.
Have they been engaged?
I have the contract, but I had to make sure we had money first.
Sure.
So we can re-engage them.
Okay, so when we meet in January on the 22nd, would be a good time to get them also involved.
Yeah.
Good, good. Any other questions?
Thank you.
All good?
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Hello again, Commissioners. Mr. Yagowski asked that I update the board under item 13, old business, item A, 2024 revised salary resolution. In your board packets, we have a couple of different versions of the salary resolutions. The one I want to speak to first is the multicolored one, which is shows kind of track changes for the proposed fourth amended salary resolution for calendar year 2024. There's a couple driving factors on why we wanted to do this evening. One is with the meeting today on the 18th, the next pay period that starts before the end of the year is December 23rd. And there's the main driving factor was we wanted to achieve some equity amongst sanitary district employees who have CDL licenses. Currently, the salary ordinance establishes an hourly rate of $24 for refuse staff with CDLs. And our collection staff, who are now housed together in the same building, were making less than that. So we saw this as an opportunity to, in our collection system staff, our maintenance staff with CDLs, our camera inspector with CDL, and our storm crew with CDL, we wanted to bring those staff up to the $24 an hour rate, consistent with what the refuse staff are getting. Additionally, as part of that, Mr. Yagowski talked with staff and advised that we'll be updating job descriptions for those collection staff who have CDLs to advise them on an as-needed basis. Their collection system foreman may assign a collection system CDL driver to backfill a refuse driver position if the need arises. So one of the driving factors was let's achieve equity among CDL holders between collection and refuse. As we were updating that, we noticed there's some position titles that might have changed a little bit based on the previous organizational chart update. And just kind of running through page 1 of this multicolored text, there are some staff positions that are open that are being recommended for deletion. The staff accountant is open, recommended for deletion. We used to have engineer 1 and engineer 2, and we don't see any reason for designating 2 different types of engineers, so we're just recommending to have a district engineer. The GIS coordinators moved from kind of administrative area to IT department. We had a position of programmer application developer is open. We recommend that for deletion. The bookkeeper position is being filled by other different type of accounting staff. And then on the page 1 as well, in the annual or biweekly, you'll see some of the red markings. The other driver of this is in the sanitary district, we have a considerable amount of staff with longevity and different certifications. So rather than have one specific range, kind of like a high range based on current staff longevity and certifications, for most positions we want to have a range of salaries with like a lower starting point and a higher up to point. So in coming years, as some of our seasoned staff retires and we replace with new individuals, based on the experience level of those individuals, they may come in at the lower range rather than higher range. So we're just trying to protect the wage stability here. As seasoned staff retires, we really need to move to a range for each position, and then we feel that's a good way to move forward. So that's what a lot of these items where we're showing ranges, that's the reason for that, to accommodate staff changeover in years to come. In the IT department, there was a position of programmer and application developer on page 2 of the multicolored text one, and that position is going to be renamed a new position, support specialist technician. That was worked on by Andy. He may be here, I think, to talk about that. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Further down in the page, on page 2, we identified for construction storm crew leader, collection maintenance. Those are CDL required positions now. If staff are hired into the district and they do not have CDLs, we have this collection maintenance and training position, and also labor position that do not require CDLs, but there's an expectation for within that 90-day probationary period for those individuals to start pursuing the CDL to be able to move into that CDL position later on. So those are the key summaries of the first 3 pages. If we go to page, let's go to page 7 of 9. So pages 5, 6, 7 kind of talk about incentive compensation, basically for certifications. Within our wastewater treatment plant, our plant operators 1 and 2, they have available to them, and we encourage them to get a Class 1, Class 2, Class 3, 4 license through studying and testing through IDEM, so they can, have more tools in there to do their job better. So they would get hourly incentive compensation ranging from 35 cents an hour or so based on how many certifications they have. On page 7 of 9, we currently have heavy equipment certification. So district employees had the ability to get certification with backhoes, payloaders, excavator, bulldozers. Some of this equipment listed here, we really do not use on a regular basis. So at this point, our recommendation is to eliminate the heavy equipment incentive compensation moving forward. But what we did in the wage adjustments with the upper ranges, any current staff that had these heavy equipment certifications, that's built into the upper limit hourly wage. So by eliminating the incentive for heavy equipment, no employee will be making less than they are now because we kind of built that into the upper range. And then as new employees move in, they'll start out at the lower range. So that was kind of the main change with incentive compensation, but also further down, CDL certification on page 7 as well. Staff were getting the ability to get incentive pay, to get CDL licenses through this adjustment to $24 an hour. We've now eliminated the CDL certification and rolled that into the base hourly wage. And again, no employee will be making less than they are now because of these changes. That are the main changes. So we included this multi-text version to identify to the board members what we're proposing to be changed. And then the second resolution in your packet is the same resolution. 4th Amendment, calendar year 2024, if approved by the board, will be effective December 23rd. This is just a clean copy without all the different track changes, so it's more easy to read with the lower upper ranges and all the final categories. So that would be for board consideration this evening, approval potentially of the resolution, 4th Amendment, to take effect December 23rd.
Can I add something? I'm asking for please. Can I add something?
Yes, you have.
All right. So we've had multiple conversations as well. One of the things that I hope that the entire city gets to is ranges, because again, one of the things that I think from an equity standpoint is that someone comes in off the street with no experience, they make the same amount of money as whoever's in that position. So that we need to get to ranges. That was one thing. The other thing was all the certifications, and I didn't hear from salaried employees. Did you mention that?
No, I did not. I omitted that, but in the salary resolution, we make it clear that any salary position is not eligible for any incentive compensation for certifications. So that's been deleted.
So what was happening, and just for the public's purview, is that we know we walked into a financial situation here at the district, and what we found is that we're a little top heavy, but then we found out that all salary employees were receiving certification pay on top of those salaries, plus, the ability to sell back vacation, comp time unlimited, a lot of different things. So it's taken all these months to kind of clean this up. Finally, I feel like we're in a great space. Thank you. We have a plant superintendent. But I also want to thank Rachel, Chris, the new board members, the old board members, new attorney, because this has been like, y'all have had to work. This has been work this year. This is just to clean it up. I know the employees have been patient. I appreciate, all of the work and the efforts that they've had, friends that have come and gone, and understand that it was about business. It was really about moving the district forward. Even the lighting feels different in the buildings, and so it's just a different atmosphere. And I think there were some hard decisions that had to be made, and I appreciate everybody sticking to it. Everybody really evaluating, what decisions needed to be made. The consultants, the clerk, and my consultants for stepping in to assist, because it's one of those things that I could sleep finally at night. I wasn't sleeping well for a while, and I shared that with many of you. And so I feel really good about the direction of the district and where we're moving forward. So I appreciate each and every one of you that have gotten us through this, because this has taken multiple iterations. When I say the number of org charts, probably 50. I mark them up, they come in, I'm like, no, And so they've been patient with me as well, because they'll catch me on the day where I think I've been overwhelmed, and I'm like, I'll say, okay, and then I'm like, wait, I didn't say that. And so it's been that kind of thing. But I appreciate this process and the journey. I think this is a good picture of what we should look like. The organization is flatter, but I think in a good way, so that now we can focus on really on maintaining our system and then updating our system. So I just want to say that I think this is finally where we need to be, and we'll look at it again in 6 months and see what else happens. So I appreciate each and every one of you for me calling you at home and saying I need to be on the board. And you all accepting and pulling one off another board and saying I need you to be on the board. So I appreciate that from all of you.
And if I may enter or input a couple more things with this. So what we did, of course, with the employees is none of them were penalized. They've all gotten their certifications, what have you. But to that point, by making this range, we're going to then introduce in the future here, hopefully come February, a past performance rating, so that these new employees that come in, they will come in at that lower number, but there's a way they can excel to get to that higher number. And they will do a past performance, we'll do a self-evaluation of them also. So as they can grow, or if they don't want to grow, they will stay at that position or that money that we hired them in at. So now there's a way they can advance themselves and not stay stagnant within the organization. I think that's where we were at. So that's one of the levels we're going to hit. Secondary, as you'll see in the next presentation, of course, the full-time people that were the salaried also got those certifications built into that higher number. So as you'll see in this order, that there is the two different numbers, the lower number and the higher number. They are the higher number at this point. So then as we progress and we replace that person for whatever reason, retirement or what have you, then we will then start the lower number again. And again, do a self-evaluation and the past performance. Next would be, of course, and you'll see it in the next presentation that Al will bring forward, is that we're going to enter a new operations and inspection manager that's going to be, as we talked about the SL-RAT that we're bringing over here into the collections, we're trying to reinvent this whole collections part of it. So the reinvention will be, of course, there'll be a team for the SL-RAT. There'll be the supervisor that will take care of both of them. And then two people will be, one for the collections and the maintenance, and then the secondary one will be for the SL-RAT, and who will then also be part of our safety and security team for the district, and then do the vehicles too. So we're going to do a nice separation there where we're going to be able to control that so much better by that new position. So as he introduces that position, I highly recommend that you accept that new position as a staff member for our department. With that, I'll let Al go for it. Well, first we have to get an approval of the 24, which will take effect just for this year, and then it will expire on the 31st. So the one that we're just approving right now will just get us to that point of 2024. So my recommendation is that you approve that salary ordinance.
I had a question, Chris.
Yes.
On here, we talked about Public Works Director.
Correct.
With a pretty wide open plus, a salary plus. We don't currently have that position, do we? We have a double strike through on where it's being funded.
Correct. So it's funded in several different ways.
Yeah.
As we approved earlier in the meeting, that we are putting our monies for that person.
Okay.
That person will be housed at the city hall. We'll take the water department, oversee them, oversee us, the sanitation department, oversee inspections and planning. So that person will govern all of that through City Hall, and then, of course, work with Ron here directly. So that position still has not been filled at this point.
And that'll be funded through a collaborative effort of the water department.
Correct.
Okay, gotcha.
Everybody pitches in on that one.
Okay.
I can speak to that because the money is all in our budget, the city's budget. So we did have MOUs with different groups that have been approved. So $40,000 of whatever salary is going to come from the city directly.
And we don't have any authority over that person. I mean, obviously, we have, if they're not doing their job, we work back through here, but in essence, they report on this, we're just contributing their salary to, allow a team building effort, if you will, around the city.
It's a way to get the position. What I will say is we are the only city, pretty much, there are a lot of cities smaller than us. We're one of the few cities, I know of the only second-class cities that don't have a director of public works. And I think that is some of the angst that I've had is that we have team meetings and we bring everybody in, but there's not one person. I have to go to every different department to talk about a project. There should be someone who holds the key for our projects and our public works projects, and we don't have that. That's why we haven't seen many public works projects, quite frankly, is because we don't have someone that has that background. That position is posted, and the goal is to get someone who has been a town manager or has been a public works director, has utility experience, but we need that person. I can't be that person. I've kind of been that person, and that's not what I should be doing all day. But that's kind of where we're at, and I think it's important. I know that Mr. Werner can speak to that, but every city that I've talked to, every other mayor, they're like, "What? You don't have one?" I'm like, "We've never had one." We're growing at a fast rate right now. And things are super fast-paced, and it's going to be important as we move into these next few years that position is filled.
So plus even just from outside, a new development comes in, it's a lot better to go to, instead of number one, having to go to the mayor and have her make all the minutiae decisions, or have to go, I gotta meet with this guy, this person, this woman, this all the way around, and have it coordinated, and they become the entity that gives you a go or no, yeah, not 100%, but a tacit go or no go, this will work, this won't work, here's what, yeah, that's great.
And this is in our budget, Chris, we have money, in our budget, we're contributing toward this.
So yes, we have what we signed is our portion of the money that goes to it. Correct.
And I will say, we did
It's an
evaluated, when I say we, I'll say Chris, Al, and I talked through this, but we looked at what has been spent in the last couple of years on salaries, and we're still much lower than we've been in previous years. Also, the overtime. You know, we were running about $700,000 last several years. We had about 300-ish. So you can tell that because of management and putting internal controls in, we've managed the salaries and the overtime more efficiently to make sure that we put the right people in place so that we can pay for the positions that we know we need.
Wonderful. Okay, thanks.
So my recommendation is for the 24 salary resolution to accept that.
Move to approve the fourth amended salary resolution for calendar year 2024 for the city, or the sanitary district of Michigan City.
I second it.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed.
Thanks, Chris.
And then just a small related matter to that, we did not have a chance to get into the mail board packet, but I think on the table with the little black clips, you have some job descriptions. So what we did was, for those collection system staff who have CDL licenses, we updated the job description primarily on page 2 under their job duties and responsibilities. We added a new item that says, on an as-needed basis as determined by the sewer operations and maintenance foreman or inspection and safety foreman, these individuals must serve as a driver in the refuse department. So just kind of reinforcing that all our CDL drivers over there are part of the team. They're either assigned to refuse or collection. If refuse may need a CDL driver from time to time, then our collection CDL drivers will fill in, provided their foreman approves of that and assigns them to that position. So we would ask for board approval on these first 3 positions: construction storm crew leader, collection maintenance video operator and GIS, and collection maintenance.
I'll make a motion to approve those changes to the job descriptions.
One second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Motion passed.
And then lastly, in that packet, there's a 4th job description as the new title in the IT department, support specialist technician. And I'll let Andy come up and kind of describe his thoughts for why this is being recommended to the board tonight.
Hi, good afternoon. Andrew Mechanic, IT Director. Before you, we have a job description here for a support specialist technician. And this will be a very multifaceted position where this person is going to be wearing a lot of different hats, but could provide a lot of resources to the sanitary district in particular, refuse department, where they would be able to work with our customer relationship management or CRM system and be able to help input that, be able to actually take and schedule different calls that may come in, work with the public occasionally. Also be able to help because all of our crews now, especially in the sanitary district, they're rapidly becoming more dependent on technology. So this person would be available to assist collection and refuse departments with any like tablet issues that may come about, any type of technology problems in general, and they could just be right there as a direct resource, so that we're not actually hindering their performance by waiting on a city IT technician to come over there and help them, and they can actually educate as well to the staff and bring them up on this newer technology. So this would be a lot of different roles. As you can see, there's basically about 3 different types: dispatcher, representative, computer technician, kind of all wrapped into one. It's not going to be anything of a high level of any of those 3 areas. It's just something that's more of a general help that we can bring up to speed very quickly to fill that role with the person that's pretty technological, tech savvy, basically. So
do you think you could actually find this person in the market? I mean, I'm just, it's easy for me to define a few other jobs. That one seems a little broad.
It's really for what we have to do. It's really not. I don't believe it's going to be very difficult. We're using iPads and Android tablets, which there's a pretty good amount of people that are real familiar with those. I don't think that's going to require a lot of training, and then just somebody that has more of like a customer service background too. I mean, I think it's something we could. Some of our users in the city with our CRM, we've been able to train them in 10 to 15 minutes, and they can take it from there. It's very intuitive. So I think it's not going to require anybody with a real specific skill set to be able to bring it to this position.
So a 5th grader could do it, right? So, I'm sorry.
I make that recommendation also.
I move we accept the new position description and move forward with hiring this person.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed.
Thank you.
Now, last but not least, that goes hand in hand with the new salary ordinance will be the 2025 salary ordinance. And that will encompass everything we've just talked about in 2024. There's no raises in that new ordinance, so it will be basically a repeat of what we have just passed for 2025. So I make that recommendation that we also approve that.
So all we're doing on this is changing the year from 2024, we just passed to 2025.
Correct. It's just, we have to do it for the new time.
It's in related to that. Do you anticipate? I'm not sure exactly how you do your evaluations here, but I'm assuming these are. I don't know if there's any pay for performance or expectations relative to performance relative to their salary adjustments, or is it across the board typically? Or?
Excellent question. So we've not developed a system yet. So we're going to look into systems. However, we are, from this point forward, going to have a starting spot as we show the salary ranges, with the hourly ranges, so that we'll have a starting and stopping, and then we'll say, okay, for that person who comes in at the $18.70 an hour, for example, in collections, then after their 90 days probationary period, they would excel to maybe to $1. Okay. And then from there, then it would be a year in, or from there would be getting their CDL license, and then getting them up that scale, but in smaller amounts comparable to just hiring somebody and putting them right at the top. That's what we've been doing here.
I just like accountability and expectations, and managers are accepting the responsibility too to manage their teams too.
Correct, absolutely.
To that point, typically what that looks like is a salary schedule that points out certain milestones so that managers and staff know what they're working towards, and how they get that extra dollar or that. Okay, so.
The jump is there.
But there are no raises to 2025.
I picked that up too. So
yes.
So I'm assuming that just from a morale standpoint, this is going over okay relative to clarity in terms of.
The only thing that we didn't talk about, and I don't know if the controller talked about the $1,200 one time.
No,
amount.
we did not.
So you may have to we probably need to have that discussion after this for next year. But we did approve in city budget for all the employees a $1,200 one time. And we did include, I think, the numbers for sanitary.
But it would be just be a one-time payment. Wouldn't be
right.
It would fall in that salary.
Right. Because we weren't giving raises, so we did do a one-time $1,200.
It's in the stipend.
We call it one time. It's in June or July. I can't remember, but we need to make sure we include that. for next year. But it's like in June, so you have a little time. But I just thought it just came to my thought, but we did budget for the employees to get that.
And secondary would be on that, what we've just approved in 2025. As you saw, the amendments that we've done throughout, we can do that through the course of the year. So if we decide to increase something or decrease or put a new position in, we can always revisit this at any moment and then redraw it and then get it approved again. No, but we have to use the exact same resolution each and every time we do that.
Sure. Well, it seems very timely in terms of getting this done by the end of the year. This is, as the mayor points out, this is a lot of work. This is, it's a lot of work. I've been involved with similar things. Good for you. So.
Absolutely.
All right, I will move to approve the salary resolution for calendar year 2025 of the Sanitary District of Michigan City.
I'll second that.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed.
As we passed over to staff reports, and I just want to touch that, it also falls under old business, but we had approved prior the storm trench grain replacement at Lakeshore Drive and Prospect Lane off of Lakeshore Drive, excuse me. And that was the Reeve and Riley construction. They completed that project on 11/27. It was then inspected, photographed, and you'll see the photographs and the report from our engineer in your pamphlet there. I then inspected it myself, and then I approved their invoice because we haven't approved this monies before. So I approved the invoice of $39,175 to Reeve and Riley. Of course, it did not exceed anything, and there was no change orders involved in that.
So related to that is the issue with the handful of homeowners in that area. Is that resolved?
It should be 100% resolved now.
I mean, I just
what was
years.
It was a deterioration. If you look at the picture of the previous and the finished product, the deterioration of the grates that go across the roadway. So that as the Prospect is quite an incline, as the rainwater or the stormwater comes down that, it was deteriorating the grates and around the asphalt and the concrete around the grates itself. So it was just sinking in basically and falling in. So they couldn't drive their cars through it, of course, and then it was overbuilding. So they reconstructed it using our same grates. So that's why it was cheaper for us in the big picture of things. And they used our same grates and reconstructed using concrete as a base more so than blacktop.
Chris, I forgot to ask John today, did Reeve Riley get that plate in at the west end of the trench? There's a gap. And I know they had just a piece of 2x4 to keep the grates from moving, but they were going to get a piece of
They especially make a piece of steel for both sides because of the grate size being different from the roadway. So they just had to have them, but they made them on their own and so.
And that's it. Well, okay, thank you.
That did not need approval. It was just to update the board on what that condition was because we did approve that in the last meeting.
As a heads up, we're going to need to do the same on Upland. That one's going to
Look at that too, yes.
Because it's got two grade changes.
Right.
Okay. Then our fall under old business. No other old business. We've passed those. New business is 25. Lakeshore Drive. Ordinance. The more planning unit development.
Commissioners, one last thing Mr. Yagowski asked to appear before the board this evening is on this item, ordinance 4754, the Moore Road development. Since this is a infrequent requirement of the board, just wanted to remind the board that as new development comes into the city with enough land disturbance, a new impervious surface requires post-construction stormwater management, retention basins, detention basins. Within Michigan City Code Chapter 22, Section 22746 requires that these developers, when they're putting in these stormwater management facilities, they must have a formal maintenance agreement that's approved by the Sanitary District of Michigan City and recorded into the land record prior to final plan approval. So the purpose of this is, as these new developments occur, we have all these stormwater features throughout the city. It's the responsibility of that property owner to maintain those in perpetuity. If they have to do vegetation removal, siltation removal, repair structures. So the ordinance requires a formal agreement to be able to do this. This particular project that's related to Ordinance 4754 is the Moore Planned Unit Development that was discussed a little bit earlier. Since that is a planned unit development, the approval of that had to go through the City Council. And as a requirement, attachment to that ordinance is the Stormwater Management Manual Practices Maintenance Agreement for that particular entity. The design engineer for those facilities for the developer prepared Best Management Practice Operation Maintenance Manual, which describes inspections weekly, monthly, seasonally, annually. So that's part of this agreement. So the action before the board tonight is to consider and possibly approve the Stormwater Management Best Management Practice Maintenance Agreement for the Moore Planned Unit Development. We had a draft of the agreement in your board packet. We have since received the signed and notarized approval letter from the developer, Tony Macri, notarized. So if the board were to approve that agreement today, we would be in position to have Mr. Yagelski sign it, and then we could get that back to the clerk's office, and then they can finish up recording it and issuing that ordinance. City Engineer Tim Wonders did point out there's a couple places in the text on page 1 and 2 where it refers to the planning department, and there's been a request to change that to the sanitary district now, since that'd be more appropriate. So I'll work with Attorney Novak to make those couple minor changes. And I think we would be in position to be able to potentially approve this maintenance agreement tonight.
Basically, what it was calling out for, and on the lines for the planning department to actually review all the stormwater issues and provide the maintenance and things, and that's not what planning does. We do that in the sanitary district. So we just needed to change that from planning department to Michigan City Sanitary District on each one of those lines. I think it was like 4 times maybe in the department, right?
Okay. Just make sure your motion says as amended.
Also my recommendation.
Thank you. I'll make a recommendation to approve the agreement presented by the Moore with Pyramid Properties, so Mr. McCree can move forward.
As amended.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed.
So the related question, if you don't mind, is, well, number one, it's great to have the new development, okay, planned unit development. So what's the difference between this and the stuff out of Paz Road?
The Paz and Woodland,
Yeah,
Woodland Ridge.
there would be under the same agreement that was approved previously. We had to go back and check and see how the previous administration handled some of that. But regardless, there is within the ordinance the requirements of the property owners to maintain their stormwater facilities. So that's, as we went through this process, we recognized we had to come before the board to finalize this agreement, and as we move into 2025, we'll be looking at current facilities that are already in place and approaching those owners on the maintenance of their facilities as well. So that's where I was
coming from. So we should be consistent, whatever it is.
Right,
So,
and that'll be
and I'm anticipating we'll have more. So.
Yes, and that's actually part of the MS4 Municipal Storm Sewer Separate program going forward. So we'll have more updates on that as we get started on some of that in 2025.
Great, thank you.
I'd like to call for the approval of the claims docket for the December 8th.
Good point.
The total claims of $499,068.64.
I'll make a motion to approve the claims docket.
A second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the claims docket. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Now, on the last thing under new business, I know there's been a lot of changes that we've said tonight and differences with salaries and new positions, et cetera. So I'd like to open it back up to public comment in case there's more public comment in reference to what we've discussed thus far. That's my recommendation.
So open up with public comments.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good evening, board members, city council member Don Walensky, and liaison to the sanitary district. Just a couple items. Number one, with public comment, and myself, the mayor, we use at the council meeting, public comment is saved for second to the last item on the agenda. And to me, instead of having, like your board, might be some other boards where they have public comment, the second or third item on the agenda, it's either, maybe folks can't get here right at 4 o'clock to discuss what they want to discuss, or they sit here through the whole meeting, and then they hear something that they would like to say, and get it out to the board. To me, the way the public comment is right at the beginning of the meeting kind of stifles discussion from the public to where they can really express their opinion. So I would appreciate it, maybe you could take it under consideration to move public comment to the end of the meeting rather than having it at the beginning of the meeting. The second thing, and Mr. Wallace, what you mentioned about the stormwater plans and that the retention ponds have to be maintained. So exactly what does that mean, it has to be maintained? If we have weeds and vegetation and trees growing in that stormwater area, it has to be kept clean, is that?
Yes, generally, the design engineer for that facility will establish a volume reduction percentage that says if the presence of vegetation growing in a basin reduces the storage volume of that basin by, say, 30%, then that would kick in a requirement to remove that excessive vegetation and return the basin to its design volume. So that's part of some of the MS4 elements we're looking to get into early next year as we have to go back and check some of those. Yes.
Okay, because I have a spot in town that I'd like to maybe talk to you after the meeting about.
Yep,
Okay,
we can take over that.
Get your professional opinion on it, okay. And then finally, Mr. Warner, I think this will probably fall under your office, on the corner of Benton Street and Harrison Street, there's a storm sewer on the right-hand side, on the north side of the intersection, that it dips down about 5 to 6 inches in the roadway. So when you're coming through there, boom, your car is going like that.
I think I noticed that, yeah.
Pardon?
I did notice that this week. Yep.
Yeah, I don't know if that's caving in or if that was the initial installation.
I haven't had a chance to, it's on my list of things I need to have them look at, televise the manhole, see if because there's a manhole close by, it could be, it's just.
And I probably went over it as many times as you have, just never thought about it. But it struck me the other day, since I'm on the liaison to this board and I'm coming to the meeting, I'm out to get it on the table.
Yep. Yeah,
to get it fixed.
since I've got John Gorska in my office now, he doesn't get away from me, so.
You got this guy working for you.
Yeah, indeed, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Don.
And then I had another item tonight. I referred her resident to contact you, Chris. It was in reference to Streetwood Pond. It was concerned about the signage. I know that we have something at your own risk or something out there, but she was concerned on the why for the sign. Also, I know that she had seen someone that seemed suspicious or whatever there. She didn't know if there had been some crime or something happening, and why, so I don't know if you want to share with the public.
She already contacted, yes.
Yes, with the public on, why the signs have gone up, because I know it was at one of the meetings, I think.
Two different reasons that I'll address to the board also, but what happened is I decided to close the south side of Streamville Pond. We've talked about that in the past meeting, to close the restroom and that parking lot, so we don't have to plow two different areas. We kept the north side open, and so on the south side, we did put the closed signs, and that parking lot would be closed for the season. Then on the north side, we did use at your own risk. The reason being, and I guess I could have probably thought that a little bit more, but it's because of the ice.
Sure.
So the ice and the dangers with the snow and the location. So that was my intention. So we did post two signs to use at your own risk. So I think I did talk with the lady, but I'll do a press release to that fact to let people know that it's because of the ice and snow.
And maybe, should we put something, beware of ice or something?
They're like a caution.
Caution.
Yeah, use at your own risk sounds pretty negative.
I think we might be the same.
Yes, it's just one of those things because the more we keep trying to clean it or to use ice or salt, the more responsibility we take too. That's why I wanted to make it their own risk and not more so ours.
Yeah.
But I can make that.
Caution, ice, something, but.
Sure.
But yeah. Showed up in my office, so I just wanted to make sure. I was like, okay, I got the number for you, so
Okay.
just wanted to make sure. But again, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to everybody.
Same to you.
And again, like I said before, I appreciate everybody's hard work and effort this year, and look forward to next year.
Yeah. Well, great job, Chris, and it's really exciting being on the board. You've done a great job shepherding this, so a lot on your plate, and to me, it seems like some very positive forward momentum we have, and only expect to continue that next year, so.
Well, again, with Rhonda's help now, I'm looking forward to that too, and it's going to help really mold us to where we really need to be a professional level to be at.
And Mr. Yagowski, not to interrupt, but I did have one more thing to say that I remembered when I sat down. So, I did take the opportunity to go with Daryl Garbachet and the mechanics from Central Maintenance over to Hobart to look at their compressed natural gas vehicles and the setup that they have there and the safety items that they have inside the shop to make it possible to work on those vehicles in that shop instead of having the vehicles taken to a contractor and paying extra funds. So, and that was great. And Daryl's he gave me a bullet point explanation and summary of the trip. And in January, we're gonna have a workshop with the city council so Daryl can explain more in detail all about this CNG. Well, one thing I did want to bring up that really struck me is over in Hobart, and I know that I think you're working on it now, Mr. Yagowski, is the household recycling area, okay? Well, what I'd like you to do is call their gentleman over there in the garage, because that's how they run it, the general manager. Just take a ride over there and just see how they got it set up and how uniform it is and how it's managed. We were there. It's nothing fancy at all, but they got so many different items that you can dispose of. They have a payloader sitting right there. Okay, during the day, boom, pick it up. If it's got to go with a payloader, they pick it up. And it's done very, very well. And I'm sure ours will be done well, but I just, just to get ideas on how other people do things, I would recommend that you take a ride over there and take a look at it.
Sure.
Yep. And last thing, the council did approve for the purchase for the refuse truck as well, so really need it.
I signed it today, so that it'll be on its way. We should have it before the new year.
They're gonna have to put a big bow on it, though.
Oh. They have to put install the tippers on the back. So that's something different for us. They're not charging us for them, but they're gonna put them on the back that we can then hook onto our garbage trucks and put them in. So that's the last step, and they'll be on their way. I did make a mistake. believe it or not. So when I read we had included, so this is a new revised claims docket, and it's because we included the old claims from Woodruff and Sons. So those were included into this new one because at the end of the year we have to clear them up. So I'm asking for an amendment to pay our total claims of $614,329.06.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed.
Let's not short anybody by $200.
Now we're good. Sign that.
All right, I signed that. You
Okay.
signed the top line.
You have to sign this, her copy, I'm sorry, not that copy.
We also have to do our regular meeting.
Yeah, I got that up now. And one more point before we adjourn is all of us have received the 2025 Board of Commissioners calendar for meetings next year. So just be sure everyone takes a look at that, and we'll see you.
You have to approve it.
We have to approve it, so.
Move to approve the calendar of regular meeting dates for 2025.
Yes.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed.
All right.
I'll make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I'll second that.
All right. Motion passed.
Thank you, everybody. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
For me to sign, right?
Happy New Year.
No, let's see.
Yeah, everybody.